I have just noticed a general increase in the number of faces I've never seen before making videos about this issue. For the first time, we are watching the taboo of American circumcision being broken down in front of our eyes. It is no longer scary to have a conversation about this. It is no longer hidden, and this is exploding all around us, and this is one of the most important issues, if not the most important issue of our lives. And I think she's going to explain why it's so important. And what we're doing is, it's not just the loss of the sexual function. It's literally the brain damage that you're creating in the child. That is by far the worst result of circumcision.
I just read an article that said that intact baby boys make up either 50% or more of the male newborn population compared to their circumcised counterpart.
Circumcision is circumcising itself right out of our society. This psychopathic, disgusting evil is on its way out. It is self-destroying. This happened all throughout the Anglo nations. First, England started doing it at the turn of the century in the US. Then it filtered into New Zealand, Australia, and Canada. And now then it went the opposite. It died in New Zealand, died in Australia, and slowly dying. Actually, it died first, I think, in Great Britain. I think the large majority of British men are intact. But also same for now in Australia and New Zealand. The interesting thing about these countries is that the doctors started this, not the population. The medical doctors were so good in these countries that they were smart enough to realize that sexually assaulting babies for a cold blood ritual of a Middle Eastern religion is really not medicine, which is kind of rather obvious. So those doctors slowly kind of stopped it in their society, whereas it's happening now in the U.S. So it's I call it the slow fizzle, and this is not the goal. This is not my goal in Intactivism, is for the slow fizzle to continue. I want there to be a bang. I want there to be explosion. I want there to be a reckoning. I want people to realize that this is harmful, that this is one of those things that we need to say never again.
For the first time in I don't know how long, and that's not a surprise to me, especially since everybody is trying to kind of like heal individually and collectively, and take accountability for the way that we've affected each other. But then around the same day, I saw this mother pleading for help and guidance because she had circumcised her baby as a newborn, and then 9 years later, and it was a botched circumcision by the doctors, and required some cauterization. And then 9 years later, she was lamenting that she might have permanently disfigured her son and potentially made him like dysfunctional.
That is literally the entire purpose of circumcision, was to create dysfunction. When they started this, it was a sacrifice of the most pleasurable part of our bodies. Manamides even mentioned this, how it is a very functional tissue. So they knew, they were not as dumb as American doctors, who have this inability, this lack of capability of really accepting the anatomical facts of the tissue they're missing. We have literally doctors in denial of anatomy. Most of these doctors have never read the histology studies of Taylor, Colden, Lockwood, or Winkleman. They've never read the neurology testing of Dr. Sorrells, and so they have no idea the actual structure function of the tissue
in some capacity. And then it wasn't long after I saw a video where a guy was talking about how the widespread practice of male circumcision corresponds to the rampant increase in violence against women. And I just want to say, like,
this is, if you look in the world and you see where the violence is in the world, anywhere where there is child trauma, there is massive amounts of violence. Whether this is in United States of America, Middle East, some places in South America, some places in Mexico, some of these third world nations where they don't have the infrastructure, there's all sorts of child traumas and violence, and these children grow up to be gang members, criminals, rapists. This changes the mentality of the victim for life. This literally alters the brain development of the child.
Of course it does. Like, that's the purpose of it. Like, if we want to think about the chasm between men and women, like, circumcision is such a diabolical boon to that cause. Okay? Because if you think about it, you know, first of all, you traumatize a baby from the first few days of life. That alone will affect his cortisol levels. He now has a baseline cortisol level that's higher than the rest of the newborns, right? So you can expect some erratic behavior from that child, of course, as they go about their lives. It's going to take some deep, deep work to assuage the effects of that trauma. Then, when you consider the fact that, I don't know, for the first 6 months of life or something, babies can't even really distinguish themselves from their mothers. Like, the way that their mothers treat them impacts the way they treat themselves, impacts the way they treat others. And here we have so many mothers that are just kind of offering up their babies to the medical establishment for what amounts to a cosmetic procedure that potentially carries a risk of death. Like, 100 babies a year die from bleeding out, something like that.
I'd like to mention that this is basically a cosmetic procedure. The cosmetic side of this, the idea that this is somehow better looking or more attractive to women, this is all indoctrination. If you go to Eritrean or Sudan or Ethiopia, a lot of these places, they believe that women's natural flaps, I call them rose petals, they're beautiful. But they believe that women's natural body parts are ewy and dirty and disgusting. And this literally started as the idea that our genitals are sinful. They're dirty. They make us do dirty things. They make us sin. And that somehow became this hygiene thing and this aesthetic thing. And I don't know what you think, but this is pure indoctrination. I mean, if you think about it, it's crazy that this is even part of the discussion, aesthetics, cosmetic surgery on a child, so that some future potential woman that is indoctrinated into this baby mutilation cult ceremony, which is what this is. This is not medicine. It's never been medicine. Will never be medicine. We should torture and mutilate a baby so that some woman can be attracted to him. I mean, just the thought of that is absolutely diabolical. And it's just so twisted and stupid. It's just unbelievable that our society has drifted so far away from just being decent.
You know, because you can imagine the deep, deep mother wound that occurs when women just kind of allow this to happen. Because we all know, I mean, all these mothers that allow it to happen, they know they couldn't do it themselves because it shouldn't really be done. So they should have protected their babies from that. And so you can imagine that creates some kind of mother wound that, of course, transcends the way this little boy will grow up to be a man and regard women in general, right? Of course, that's going to play a role. And then when you add the anatomical aspect of it, the foreskin is like a eyelid for the penis. So it has mucous membranes, it protects it, it keeps it lubricated, it maintains sensitivity, it has 20,000 nerve endings. You need it. It plays a role.
Okay, so just an interesting thought. Again, not being critical. This is the type of lexicon that we've been given. This is the type of conversation that we've been given. The main thing that everybody goes to, and the reason why they go to this is because that's the only function that has been attributed to the foreskin through these quack organizations that literally cut these tissues off babies and use ridiculous pseudoscience excuses to do so. And so the thing that they've said is that this is protection, that this is just a protective covering. It's not that big a deal. You know, men don't, hey, I'm a tough guy. I don't need protection. You know, I'm a tough, burly, tough guy. You know, with testosterone, I don't need nobody protecting me. What do I need protection from, huh? You know what I mean? That's the mentality. So men don't care about protection. When you say protection, nobody's ears perk up. Okay? That's why they attribute. That's the only function they attribute to the foreskin. The foreskin is not like the eyelids, okay? It's like the rods and the cones, okay? That's its first function. A small tertiary function is protection, okay? That's the one nobody cares about. But what men do care about is our satisfaction, our feeling, our experience. That's what we care about. We care about our partner's experience and we care about our own. And believe me, there's not a man on this planet who wants reduced pleasure. That's just ridiculous. So the main thing that we need to talk about when we bring this up is this is the main sensory function. And she's getting into that with the 20,000 nerve endings. So she's going to get into that. But my point is just this, is that when you talk about this, bring up this is the main sensory tissue of the penis. It has a very important mechanical function which reduces friction of intermission, which is one object moving inside another. It also acts as a stop gassing to maintain moisture, so it keeps lubrication in the system. I destroyed any men's denial patterns. I mean, if you accept that as fact, which it is, and it's undeniable fact, you can look at the histology studies and neurology testing. It's undeniable fact. This is the main sensory tissue. Okay, this tissue everts during erection, becoming the main interfacing tissue that both gives and receives pleasure. So this is where it happens. This is the MVP, the superpole. This is where the exchange of pleasure occurs in this tissue. So this is like the rods and cones of the eyes. When you open your eyeball and you see what's in front of you, that's the rods and cones sending that the signals of that light back into the axillary lobe of your brain, where your brain processes that as eyesight. Okay, so that's what the rods and cones do. The foreskin is the exact same thing when it comes to sexuality. It is not the eyelids. Okay, this is gouging out the eyeball. Okay, let's not trivialize this. Let's not deny the actual anatomy. And I'm not saying anything about her. I'm saying that this is the type of, this is what we've been given. This is the type, the way we talk about these things, and this is the way we hear about them and learn about them. What I'm saying is focus on what makes the biggest difference to the person, to the man, to the mother, to the woman. And to the man, the most important part is, hey, I'm experiencing this amazing pleasure. And with the woman, with what he wants for his woman, is we want our woman to experience that amazing pleasure too. We want to share it. That's what a good man cares about. So anyways, let's listen more.
It plays a role too in fertility, pleasure. Like, it affects not just him, but his partner as well. So like, when you think about...
There's a website called sexasnatureintendedit.com, and that describes how through 160 to 220 million years of evolution, the foreskin has been developed through mammals. It's found in 5,488 mammal species, found in both the male and the female. This is a very essential part to the full function of intercourse. And without this tissue, you are sexually hobbled and crippled, and that's a fact. So
genital mutilation for like baby boys at birth, of course it contributes to this chasm between men and women. Of course it does. So like, I just want to say that if you're a mother and you're a mother of a boy and you want to create a world that's safer for women, stop genitally mutilating your sons and expecting them to respect women later.
Hell yeah.
It might not be something you want to hear, but like, it needs to be said. That is affecting how these men are able to relate to women. It really is. And we all kind of have to come together and take accountability collectively. Like, we all do things that we think are right at the time, but you know, it takes some accountability and some brutal honesty to rectify some of these things that we've
this is where, okay, the brutal honesty part is, this is very hard for a man to accept, that, hey, I'm missing the most pleasurable part of my penis. I mean, that's hard to accept. You're not going to have men running around at the nightclub saying, hey, babe, I'm missing the most pleasurable part of my penis. Come home with me. You know what I mean? Like that's just not part of how mammal species, procreate or seek out procreation.
Accepted as a culture that are really, really contributing to our collective downfall. It's not just women that are under attack; it's men too. Because the attack isn't just on femininity in the female form. The attack is on the entire right brain. And we all have it. The attack.
This is such an important point, and I just want to explain what she said by this, okay? Because it's really hard to understand. She's obviously educated into psychology, so she understands this. So if you are in a survival situation, you have what's called the fight or flight system. You have this part of your brain structure called the amygdala. And the amygdala is your alert system. It says, you are in danger, get the fuck out of here, or fight like a motherfucker. Okay, so that's what that system, that part of your brain does. It's called the amygdala. So, So the amygdala's job is to turn on the fight or flight, the sympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic's job is to basically prepare you for fight or flight. And the way it does this is it's going to increase blood pressure. Why? Because increased blood pressure increases blood flow and circulation, providing more oxygen to the tissues. It's going to increase your heart rate. Why? Because you want more oxygen going to your muscles so that you can do physical activity. It's going to also decrease your digestion. Why? Because you don't need blood going through your digestive system, carrying nutrients from the blood, from your digestive system into your blood, because it's going to take time for that to happen, meaning that energy that your body's digesting won't become available for you to fight or flight. So you don't need it. Also, another thing you don't need is you don't need complex math equations. You don't need to sit there and do quadratic equations in your head. You need to focus on getting the flock out of Dodge, right? So your brain shuts down the frontal lobe and it centralizes everything into the medulla oblongata, the fight or flight, the limbic system, the reptilian brain. This is the deepest core brainstem, and its main job is to keep you alive, okay? So you don't need the frontal lobe. It shuts down the frontal lobe. So the amygdala's job is to literally shut down the part of your brain that makes you conscious, aware, clairvoyant, intelligent, able to judge right and wrong, okay? So we're literally torturing these babies. We are creating a hypersensitivity to the fight or flight nervous system. We are increasing the size of the amygdala. This has been proven with studies on what's called adverse childhood experiences or early life trauma. They have literally shown an increase in the literal structural size of the amygdala. What's happening is when babies are tortured, their DNA assumes that it is going into a very violent, dangerous world. So what's it going to do? It's going to upregulate the fight or flight nervous system. It's going to make you more reactive to trauma. And in fact, studies on babies have shown that babies who are given vaccinations 6 to 9 months after their circumcision, they have higher responses to pain. That means they are more sensitive to pain. They are hypersensitive. So we are creating babies with psychological trauma, damaged brains. Literally the brain structure. We're altering the brain structure of the babies. This is why I was telling you, the loss of the sexual function is nothing compared to the damage done to the brains of that child. And if you look around the world today and you see who's violent, which cultures are the most violent cultures in the world, they are the ones with the most childhood trauma, guaranteed. Across the board, this is this is solid science, as solid as you get. This is one of the most destructive things that humanity's ever done to itself, to its children. And I know, it's just a small flapper skin, or I'm fine, whatever you want to say to deny this. This is one of the biggest issues of our lives, and I would really guess that if we prove the Fermi paradox right, and what I mean, and go Google the Fermi paradox, if we prove the Fermi paradox right, if we destroy human intelligent life on Earth for the future, I guarantee you the persons involved were either circumcised or fighting against a circumcised culture. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. And if you look at the wars of this century, most of them were fought by circumcised nations or against where one of the groups was circumcised. And that's a fact. And the fact is, by torturing babies, we create a very unsafe environment for women. If you are a feminist, if you don't care about men at all, you're the biggest misandrist on the planet. You better become the largest intactivist that has ever walked the face of this earth. Even if you hate men, if you think men are the most vile, disgusting creatures on earth, but you want to protect women because you care that much about women, you better for goddamn sure become an intactivist and protect little baby boys, because what you're doing is you're damaging the stronger sex, right? And you're putting the weaker sex in with these mentally damaged men, and these men are full of denial, delusions, a compulsion to repeat the trauma on their own children. Okay, they have this somehow trauma creates this weird psychological damage. This, I guess it's some way of protecting oneself to repeat the trauma, so it's some way of denying the damage of the trauma. I don't get it. It's human psychology. It's well studied. Go look this stuff up. I'm not making this stuff up. I'm not saying anything that's outside of well-established psychology, whether it's adverse childhood experiences or the effect of adverse childhood experience on brain development through epigenetics and literally morphological and structural changes in key areas of the brain that affect mood, memory, emotion, balance, stability, all these things. We are damaging our children in an extreme torture and mutilation. We are cutting the most sensitive nerves of their genitals, and this throughout history, the very large majority of men never had any anesthesia whatsoever. I mean, what was anesthesia? Would it come in the 80s or something? And they don't even do it in 55% of the babies still today in America. And we hear stories all the time about how the doctors will do the injection and then go on to the circumcutting, right? It's just barbaric, psychopathic stupidity, and we need to band together and end this brutal assault on our children.
Is on the right brain. The attack is on divine feminine, which takes many forms, and men are under attack because they are potentially the conduit of violence. And I mean, women are attacked in similar fashion, but I don't need to get into that in this video. So that's all I have to say about that. So sorry.
All of you should go and join the Be Well Rebellion on Instagram and sign up for her, because we need to be supporting these people. We need to be giving them support, education, sharing. We need community. We need people to come together so that we can protect these children.